Isn't it something that when you look at history, you go, wait a minute, that means the last 6 Republican presidents in a row have all actually been candidates for some serious jail time. Oh yeah, because here we are at the time of this recording, we're with this complete criminal enterprise, the Republican Party, of which Trump is, he's just exactly what the Republican Party really is about. Corporate criminality. The whole Republican Party actually colluded with Russia because they're that desperate to hold on to that money and keep you from saving this planet, getting you clean air, clean water, getting you health care, getting you healthy food. They want them Republicans here, they want that corporate criminality dominating you, taking away your rights. Didn't just start with Trump here, though. Oh, no, let's go back here. Look at the last one just before. The Bush-Cheney Republican. Why, at the time of the Trump gang, are we having so much trouble still, in particularly the Mideast and other places? Is because of Bush-Cheney in particular. No, not entirely, of course. There's a history going on back. We'll get to that. At Bush-Cheney, though, we can say definitely those idiots invaded Iraq. They lied to us. There was no excuse. They had 4 different things they tried to pull up, and every one of them was shot down because, actually, they were lies. And they were trying to tell us this stuff to justify, you got to go and attack Saddam. You got to. When everything they told us, wait a minute, no, that's not true. Saddam wasn't part of 9/11. No, that's not, here's another one popped up. Saddam was getting nuclear material from Niger, Africa. Oops, nope, that was a lie. We knew about that and even knew it was a lie, and yet they said it anyway. Bush-Cheney said it anyway. And look at the disaster that they unleashed in there. And even up to the time of this recording, 17 years later, from the start of that idiocy of the Bush-Cheney invasion, the American taxpayers, you guys have put out trillions on that waste and that disaster and the ongoing military expense and the ongoing military harassment and the ongoing military hysteria. A new term, terrorism even. Who created that kind of step? Right there, Bush-Cheney. Bush-Cheney. Fraudulently lied to us about it. There was no reason for that. They broke the Geneva Accords during this ridiculous invasion. They broke a treaty, international treaty, signed by the U.S. A treaty against torture. America had signed that treaty. Bush-Cheney broke the treaty, international law. The Pentagon admits that 90% of your tax money, though billions now, billions we're talking, 90% of it, they don't know what happened to it in Iraq. It's that kind of disaster, though, was the Bush-Cheney invasion. And it let loose the tyranny and hysteria of Shia Islamics versus Sunni Islamics, which had been going on for hundreds of years of them killing each other. And just made so they got let loose by Bush-Cheney invasion, and sure enough, boom, chaos, violence, killing each other. To the point that this group, Islamic State, because Islamic State actually is Sunni background. And so if Sunnis started to claim this defense against the Shia, and bingo bongo, Islamic State is around. These maniacs, lunatics. Bush Cheney. The legacy of Bush Cheney. Now we got to step back. Yeah, wait a minute. All right, Bush Cheney. Wait a minute. Whoa. Let's go back another Republican. His dad, Bush Sr. Well, Bush Sr. broke international law. He takes American troops, invades another country, kidnaps the leader of that country, and takes him up to an American jail and runs him through an American courts. Now just flip that around in international law. Some country like, I don't know, Guatemala flies into the U.S., kidnaps the President of the United States, kills off Americans, doing it, of course, flies out of the U.S. and takes the American President down to Guatemala to stand trial in Guatemalan courts and puts him in Guatemalan jail. See, that's ludicrous. In international law, Bush Sr. just pulled another scam off. They're always saying, oh, America follows the law. America's about, freedoms, protecting rights and all this stuff. But just don't look what America actually does. Because then that's all hypocrisy. But Bush Cheney, was the background there. Now we're back one here at Bush Sr. And Bush Sr. is having all these right-wing death squads that he's paying for down in El Salvador. All this kind of stuff. But then we lump Bush Sr. in with the time when he was with Reagan, and we get to Reagan. And Reagan and Bush ran cocaine trafficking, smuggling, allowing 1,200, 2,000 pounds of cocaine a month coming into San Francisco, Los Angeles area. And that's just there. There was Miami, there was New Orleans, Chicago, everybody. We find out Ronnie Reagan and Bush Sr. had organized this cocaine smuggling system, had run it, were running it, and the end part of it was they were bringing those drugs into the U.S. They were doing it, allowing it to happen, facilitating it to happen, knew it was happening. And there's Ronnie Reagan standing up there with Nancy Reagan saying, oh, just say no to drugs. While at the same time, in his wretched little heart, Ronnie Reagan was bringing in thousands of pounds of cocaine a month into the U.S. Criminal. Now, there's other stuff about Reagan, like a traitor, too. He'd pulled the thing that Nixon did. Reagan had Bush meet with people from Iran. Weren't supposed to be doing that, because Iran had American hostages still. This was during Carter, and then Carter changed some rules, and the Iranian Revolution happened, and then Ron Reagan gets elected, and we find out that actually, as treason, Ron Reagan and Bush Sr. had gone behind the president's back and had tried to set up a treaty themselves. And they told the Iranians, hey, don't release those American hostages until after the election. And when Bush Cheney saying, when we win the election, we're going to give you millions in military parts and equipment. That's treasonous. You want to be outside of government, make your own treaty. They said, hold on to those hostages until after the election. And if they win, Bush Cheney, they'll say, we're going to give you millions of money, in military parts that you need. Military hardware and money. The Iranians agree to the terms. President Carter can't make a deal happen of getting the hostages released, because Reagan and Bush had gone behind his back and blocked the way. Within 30 minutes after Reagan is inaugurated, the American hostages are released. The payoff was that obvious. The fact was that obvious. Treason. Cocaine smuggler, Ron Reagan. His own economic advisor, David Stockman, admitted that the Reagan idea of trickle-down economics and all that crap of corporate tax breaks that Republicans are still using up to the 2008 gigantic economic collapse and what they're trying to do under Trumpy, that all came from Reagan. And even David Stockman's, who was on Reagan's economic advisor, David Stockman, says that was all smoke and mirrors. It was all a fraud. Economically, Reagan a criminal fraud against you? Treason? Cocaine trafficker? Oh, there's more. But hey, wait a minute. That's just Reagan. You got to go back another Republican in a row. And there you come to Nixon. I mean, Nixon is such a creep of criminality. Even in this, recording this now, there isn't much that even should need to say about Nixon. It's so obvious. The guy was so horrific. He made all sorts of lies and scams and criminality happen. He did it, and we have the tape recordings for a lot of that information. This guy was he was one of the creeps from the deep here. He was guilty of enough that for once, the Congress actually got him on impeachment. He was on the way to jail. But, oh no. Payoffs happen and still in politics. Couldn't let it go through. He got to resign. And it just so happened that before he resigned, he picked, contrary to the Constitution, he picked his successor. And Democrats, Republicans let him do it against the Constitution. So he picks this poor guy, Gerald Ford, whose only deal is to promise that once he's in, he will give a full pardon to Richard Nixon, which is what happens. So Nixon resigns rather than facing the music of certain conviction and therefore jail time. And instead, boom, he gets to pick the guy who comes after him. And that guy just happens to turn right around and give him a full pardon. Totally guilty. This guy, as of yet, you can still find it easy on the internet. The list of his crimes, his lies. And he's the one who started what Reagan would do later. Nixon went behind the back of Johnson and told the South Vietnamese generals, don't give in to the terms of the peace treaty that Johnson is trying to present. And he told them, if you hold out, and Nixon gets elected, he promised he'd say, I'll get you better terms. That's treason. Nixon, Reagan, and sure enough, Nixon wins. Nixon turns right around and says, stretching out this thing, Vietnam thing. He stretched it out 4 more years so he could use it as a political aspect to get elected again. Don't give up now, we're almost there. The politics were thick with slogans. He's got a plan. Nixon was claiming he had a plan to end the Vietnam War. Later he would admit, actually he didn't have any plan. It was just a phrase. What people wanted to hear. And the other criminalities that he was doing of payoffs, blackmail, obstructing justice, things. But wait a minute, that is not over yet. We've gone from Trump, criminal, Bush Cheney, criminal, Ron Reagan, criminal, Nixon, criminal, but wait, we got another one. Eisenhower stuck his big mitts in there in the Vietnam situation and bound America into Vietnam. And the Vietnam War, failure, disaster, incorrect foreign policy of America. We actually should have been helping, by our history, by who we are historically. We should have been helping the Vietnamese retain, get their country back. They were throwing out the French and take their country back, just like America threw out the British king and took the country. That's our heritage. But no, on comes Eisenhower and the hysteria and all this wacko stuff. And it's Eisenhower who sticks his mitts in there and screws up the works of the peace treaty there so that America got bound into that fiasco. It's Eisenhower who overthrew the democratically elected government in Iran in 1953. Because the government of Iran wanted to run the oil business in its own country. The Americans and the Brits got all pissed off. They want to get their own oil and make the oil and sell us the oil. The Brits were thinking they were going to go to war. Hey, it's the country of Iran. It's their oil. Oh no. So Eisenhower sends in the CIA and money, overthrows the government of Iran. We put in a dictator, the Shah of Iran, this creep from the deep, lunatic. And America sends over the money, the training, to develop a terrorist secret police force to protect the Shah, the dictator, the Savak, S-A-V-A-K. And the Savak's whole business is to go out and murder and torture and kill off Iranians who dare to complain about the U.S. throwing out their government and putting in the dictator. Eisenhower started that in the Mideast. 1954, Eisenhower sends in the CIA, money, overthrows the government of Guatemala, and puts in a military dictatorship. America, the land of the free speech, free right. And what did we do? We overthrew a democratically elected government and put in a military dictatorship that crushed freedoms and human rights. Hypocrisy. You can't get away from it. Hypocrisy. Eisenhower. We got 6 Republican presidents in a row guilty of high crimes that justify jail time. Impeachment and jail time. That's who the Republican Party really is. This criminal enterprise. Just look at the legacy of the last 6 in a row. And their crimes. They jump on Bill Clinton for saying, he lied about having sex. Wait a minute, Reagan is bringing in thousands of pounds of cocaine a month throughout America. That's a much bigger deal, Real big. And the ramifications of what happened with this cocaine surge in America. Violence and death and criminal gang profits soaring through the roof, 6 Republicans in a row. Show you who they are. Look at their history. You'd never vote Republican again. Republicans are against you.